Hi, everybody, and welcome to the SAP Press Book Club. I am Kendall Tyler, your host, and today's book is SAP Business Technology Platform, or as we like to call it, SAP BTP. And here, let me show you the book. Here we go. This is the book. And we have the authors with us today, which is wonderful. So, first off, we always like to set the stage and do intros. So who are these authors? So let's take it with, let's start with Shibaji. Would you like to start it off? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Kendall. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Shibaji Chandra. I am part of SAP for quite some time now. Have been in SAP Technologies for over 21 years. And I've been involved in BTP when it was not formally known as BTP. Like it was, the platform was incepted as a native like Neo, and then evolved as SAP Cloud Platform, and then it was HANA Cloud Platform, then SAP Cloud Platform, then BTP, and all along. I was working almost from the inception of the platform. Have been with many customers architecting solutions for BTP innovation, integration, or extension, be it on that front. And then recently I moved into the enterprise architecture world, extending my horizon a little bit more on the wider SAP portfolio right now. So here I am.
And you work for SAP, right?
Yeah, I work for SAP.
Excellent. Okay, let's go with the next one. How about Smitha?
Hello, everyone. I'm Smitha Banda, been with SAP 20 years and SAP Technologies for a few additional years. I lead the BTP practice in North America, and what I tell everyone is my team and I make BTP real for our customers. So any customer who wants to implement BTP, we are here to help. And that's what I do.
That's pretty cool. All right, how about our next one? We have, is it Chun Aun, right?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Chun Aun Gooi. I'm a principal service architect at SAP with 12 years of experience in enterprise application development. So my core expertise is in SAP BTP and driving clean core extension with SAP S/4HANA. So over the year, I work extensively, mainly with clients in the oil and gas industry, helping them modernize their IT, their ERP system with a clean core approach. So I am kind of interested in solving complex architecture challenges and align, their technology with their business value. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, this is pretty exciting. So I've been in SAP for a long time. I think I'm hitting 33 years now. And when BTP came out, I was ecstatic. I was like, yeah, finally. So, but what is SAP BTP? So, and why is it important? Who would like to start us off with that easy, simple question? What is SAP BTP?
I can take that. So very simply put, BTP is SAP's platform as a service solution. Straightforward. Why is it important? Because SAP is giving you all the services needed to build modern architectures, applications, integrations, whatever you need for your current and future businesses is what is provided as part of BTP.
Do you think that these ECC customers, or since they're not used to this, do you think that this is kind of like a wow factor for them and about time and why they should, open up their closed SAP ECC systems?
Yes. So what I would say is, before I answer that question directly, what I want to, explain is the world we are living in. So we are living in a world that is constantly changing, not just personally, but also from a business standpoint. Market demands are changing, customer expectations are changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at SAP's customers, they've been around for decades. 30 years, 50 years, even longer, right? So they're big, huge enterprises across the world who've been around for decades. Now, if you look at the newer companies, like, I don't know, Uber maybe, right?
Mm-hmm. Good.
They are starting their business models with technology.
Yes,
Uber wouldn't exist if technology didn't exist,
that's true. Yes.
right?
Yes.
So they're designing their business based on technology. But for the older companies, they don't have that flexibility or the means to do that, right? Because they already have an infrastructure. So BTP is a means through which they can adopt new innovations, new technology, and extend their existing business or create an extension to their existing business on BTP using the new technologies and the new innovations that SAP is providing. So to answer your question, yes, doesn't matter if the customer is ECC or S4 running their ERP, they can leverage BTP to build new applications using the innovative technologies.
Interesting. So what we've done, we are opening the chat up to people to ask questions. And a lot of times we used to put it kind of like at the end of the, session, we would ask the questions, but I think it's a lot more important for everybody to be able to ask a question while we're going along. So we have a question here in the chat, and he wants to know, if I had to choose another product in the market comparable to SAP BTP, what would that be? This is in order to compare, like, apples to apples.
Yeah. Since I answered the first few questions, I'm going to give Shibaji and
Okay,
Chun Aun
I can give a step on that. So, as Smitha explained, right? BTP is a platform as a service, and you can think of it's an umbrella. Under the umbrella, there are a lot of different services, and these different services provide different value propositions. And for example, let's say you go into a Home Depot store, right? You have lumber section, you have electrical, you have plumbing section, and all this, right? Something like that. So if I compare, like, what I should compare as a whole Home Depot with something else, that might not be a true comparison. Rather, product to product, service to service. So let's say, for example, if I really look at the database portfolio and data management portfolio, I would probably look at the HANA Cloud, and on top of it right now, the BDC, which SAP coming out with. I can probably look at certain comparable offering from other competitors for that particular service. Again, for example, let's say low-code, no-code development stack, right? I can probably look at SAP Build versus maybe Mendix. I don't know. And this kind of comparison I can do. But as a whole platform, BTP is a unique platform, I would say, because it is a platform as a service, and it is providing a collection of various different services, which is firepowering the entire ecosystem of SAP and creating the foundation of SAP. And from the architecture standpoint, I'm just segueing a little bit on from there. As Smitha just now explained, like, no matter where customer is starting from, EC or S4, or even a customer who doesn't have SAP footprint at all, they can adopt BTP. And right now, from the architecture standpoint, if you look at, SAP is heavily leaning towards something called composable architecture, and that's where BTP comes very handy. This is the foundation portfolio through which you can get these services and then on top of it you build your solutions. SAP is building on it, like they say, like eat your own dog food, so something like that. We build our solution on BTP, and we provide advocacy to our customer to build solution on BTP.
That makes sense. So one of our chat members here wants to know is, so currently they're using PIPO as middleware for integration. Does that mean that with BTP, PIPO goes away?
So PIPO has a end date. So as long as the end date hasn't met, the customers are welcome to continue to use it. However, the transition to PIPO from PIPO out to another product has to happen. And cloud integration, which is a part of BTP, it is one of the BTP services, is integration, is one of the options. And the beauty of using cloud integration is that SAP is providing a lot of out-of-the-box integrations for SAP and non-SAP integrations. It's providing integrations, and it's also providing connectors to these systems, all out of the box. So it's ready to use and consumable. There are also programs to transition customers from PIPO to cloud integration as well. So reach out to your SAP account team to talk about how you can do that migration from PIPO to cloud integration.
Yes, and there's that, you kind of answered and hit on one of the other questions here, is that will the third-party products become SAP BTP compliant?
The answer is BTP is an open platform. So depending on what you are trying to connect to or complying with, the answer is yes. If I'm building an application, are there APIs I can consume? Then yes, you can connect, right? If I'm doing integration, are there integration points? Then yes, I can connect. Then I'll let Shibaji.
And just to add on to that point, like Integration Suite also comes out with something called Open Connector that provides you a host of third-party connectors, like anything and everything almost in the world, which is quite relevant in the market. You'll probably get a standard connector out there. So it's already out there as a standard connector. Plus, if you have something which is really out of the box and you would like to build something, you can build in a compliant way. So yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, so Ed Peters actually has a question, and so I think I know Ed Peters, which is so cool. So he wants to know about Clean Core with respect to BTP on a new S4 implementation that's kind of outside of like RISE. So how does that work?
Anyone
want to go ahead? I know you've written that chapter also. So
Yeah, I can take on that. So when we talk about, so the question, can we talk about Clean Core with respect to BTP on the new S4 outside of RISE?
Forget about outside of RISE for a second.
Yeah.
Think about
what Clean Core is, and then we'll get to RISE.
What is Clean Core with BTP?
Yeah, so in a simple term, right, what is Clean Core is to make sure the extension that you build in your ERP system does not break the upgrades, and your upgrades does not break your extension. So basically, we want to make sure that when you extend your ERP system, is in a upgrade friendly manner, so that whenever SAP has an upgrade or any upgrade or hot fixes that require for the ERP system, your company can easily adopt those changes or even innovation in a fast manner instead of taking your own time, do the planning, which happened a few years back, where customers always need to do a few months of planning to get the upgrade to happen, right? So that's, in a simple layman term, that's Clean Core. But of course, we want to go into the detail. Clean Core have 5 dimensions, which is it's going to take a whole session to talk about that. But obviously, and then Yeah.
I think it's
And with
important,
respect to,
Sean,
go
to
ahead.
talk
Mhm.
about the 5 dimensions, because I think there is a misconception in the market that when we talk about clean core is all about extensions.
Mhm.
How am I building my code? And is that clean is what everyone thinks about. But I think it is important to mention that when
Mhm.
SAP is talking about clean core, it is not just about extensions. There are 5 dimensions of clean core.
Yep.
It starts with process, then it is extensions, then we have data integrations and operations. So
Correct.
all of these constitute clean core because what is core? Core is our ERP system. And
Yep.
what is clean? We are trying to keep our ERP system clean. Um, and what constitutes an ERP system are these 5 dimensions. And that is why it's important that when we talk about clean core, we don't only look at extensions, but we look at all 5 dimensions. And yes, to Chunon's point, if we have to get into all 5 dimensions, then it'll take longer. But yes, the book covers at a high level what these 5 dimensions are and what you need to think about.
Right.
Yeah, I think that opened up a can of worms, by the way, because everybody's asking questions now about clean core. So
And
let's, yeah, go
I'm sorry.
ahead.
No, just to add another point, another misconception regarding clean core is sometimes people think that clean core always means BTP. That is also not true. We debunked that myth in the book. And as Smitha explained, like you need to give a holistic look at your enterprise portfolio and the architecture itself, starting from the process, then going into extension integration, looking at data, and obviously looking at the operations. And then you need to really decide, as Chunan mentioned, that clean core really means build stuff in an upgrade safe way. So you can build
That makes
stuff
sense.
within the core, or you can probably have some limitations, and that's where BTP comes into picture to help you out to manage stuff in a right manner. So
Is that
that
is
seems to
that
be.
what it means by like, is there a straight methodology path or recommended to migrate to third-party interfaces?
There are straight methodology path, and that's where probably Rise comes into picture a little bit here, and you're probably alluding towards that. And for our Rise customer, probably you know that Rise is not only a cloudification of the transformation journey, but rather what SAP is saying that the transformation as service. So business transformation as service. So as part of it, we are also providing enterprise architecture support and the methodology, as well as like how people can actually transform the business. And from that perspective, we are having clear direction, clear guidelines on how to attack this kind of transformation journey with the proper methodology steps. Yeah.
And I'd
So
like to
like,
add,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, Taylor, one thing I want to add for the previous question is they asked about clean core without Rise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can I do clean core without Rise? The answer is yes. Because think of your house, right? If I'm moving to a new house, I want my new house to be clean. But if I'm staying in my current house, or moving to an apartment, new apartment, it does not matter whether I'm moving to a brand new house or a newer apartment or a used home, whatever, right? I decide to be clean, I will be clean. Whether in my current ECC home or my new S4 home, how clean I want to be and what clean means, I define it and I decide to do it. So Rise or no Rise, yes, clean core is possible. However, like Shibaji is saying, Rise will give you tools, guidelines, and methodology to help you start that clean core journey and get clean.
It's true. Now, we also have to remember that the terminology's changed around SAP land again. So everybody's very confused about Rise versus, S4 HANA Cloud versus S4 on-prem versus Grow, BTP works with it all, correct?
Yes.
So no matter what you got, if we can say BTP can work with. So what about
To add to what
yeah.
you said, Tyler,
Yeah.
think of BTP as your platform for extending your existing applications, building new applications, integrating SAP and non-SAP applications, your AI use cases. You want to build an AI use case integration, your analytics, your data. So everything that an enterprise needs is provided as a service on BTP.
That's true. So people that will want to leverage business AI now with ECC, you can do that.
And I saw a question, people really like, really BTP work on on-premise system? Answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We love those on-prem versus cloud versus, yeah. And so let's get the next one. Will third-party products become as we did that one? Wait a minute. I'm way up on the food chain here. Okay, so we'll get the where do you want to be trained later. So don't worry, Tabash, we'll get to you on that one. So is integration existing? We did that one. Clean core, we did that one. S4 HANA services can get developed. Oh, what S4 HANA services can get developed and built on SAP BTP? Everything, right?
Get that question correctly.
What S4 HANA services can get developed and built on SAP BTP? Again, I talk,
yeah, I know. I was
too
reading
much,
it.
so I'm gonna one of you want to take that?
Yeah. So I can take on that. So you say S/4HANA services can be developed and built on SAP. Well, we don't develop or build S/4HANA services on BTP, right? We consume and we consume the services from S/4HANA services so that we can build a tightly coupled side-by-side extension on BTP, right? So S/4HANA will provide the service for us so that we can use the services on BTP for us to get the data, to post the data into S/4HANA. I hope that answered the question.
I think that would do. Let's see. How is BTP cost effective compared to other systems? I would say very effective, but go ahead, guys.
I can take that. One of the beauty of platform as a service is like, it's a cloud service. So here you can really meter the service usage and pay for the usage. As you probably know, there are different commercial schemes by which you can consume BTP. For example, pay as you go or BTP EA or service-based subscription model. But in each commercial model, of course, whenever you are consuming any particular service, you are billed accordingly. So just to give you an example, let's say you are actually having an extension which is running a backend service on HANA Cloud. And probably you know that there is a development system where you developed it and then it got into production. And for the next 6 months, there is no such development on that particular system, right? You are not supposed to pay for that system. You can shut down that database system, the HANA Cloud system, you can turn it down and you would not incur any cost for that. So metering and monitoring is not set in stone here. It's very much flexible. And that is one of the primary job of the operation side as well, to understand the billing on the BTP side and manage the cost that way. Okay, that is the operation side of it. Also, while architecting a solution, at that point, there is something called estimation calculator. So if you are going into the discovery center, generally what we do, like when we create an architecture solution, we try to create the kind of bill of material saying that this is BTP services that you need, or this is the sizing of it which is required for that particular solution. You can just plug that in and easily get the operational cost for that. So that way, managing cost is very much flexible, and that reduces your total cost of ownership.
Gotcha. And we were talking about the 5 dimensions: process extension, data integration, operations, and what's the 5th?
Those are the 5.
1, 2,
Data,
3.
integration,
Yeah, data, integration.
Integration.
You know, I was so psyched when they started talking about Data Business Cloud. I was like, BTP. That's so. And so anybody wants to do that, that's BTP is part of that. So that was exciting news. At Sapphire. So let's see what here we have. Okay. If a customer is coming from ECC on-prem and migrating to S4 to BTP, what functionalities or function modules, SAP, NetWeaver, Business Suite, etc., can potentially be retired or sunset with the migration? All of them, isn't it?
I think it goes into a very technical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we need to look at module by module.
Yeah. So, but on general, I can give some guidance here. So SAP already provided a tool, something called cloudification viewer, right, for customer to look on their current consumption of function module or other developed artifacts that they use, whether it's already retired or whether there's a successor on that. Okay, so just take a look on cloudification viewer. You get the idea of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Rohit, by the way, your company's promoting SAP BTP highly. So what's the feature of BTP in the next 5 years? Gosh, there's so much you guys could do with this, with BTP.
Yeah, there's literally so much you can do on top of it. It really depends on the customer's need, to be honest. But I can probably give some pointers on the trends. A lot of the early adopters who are adopting BTP, they start with the integration journey. Integration is I'd say, low-hanging fruit. That's where they start with converting from PIP, as Smitha mentioned a few moments ago, right? We have a set migration path from PIPO to integration suite. Adopting it, it's a good I'd say, easy path. Also, if your organization is looking at business transformation in terms of clean code and all, of course, data as well as extension, that comes into picture as well. So that way we can start there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Janet, yes, BTP does work with on-prem. I actually know that for a fact because I worked with a customer who had an ECC on-prem, and we put BTP in to connect Signavio. It was so cool. I mean, it was so totally psyched on that. It does work. Take it from me, been there, seen it actually happen.
And I think there's a question, I don't know where, but something about how does it connect to on-prem, I think.
There are a few different areas where BTP is extending its tentacle into on-premise. Okay, one option I think Chun Aun answered it through Cloud Connector and stuff. Other option is, for example, in cloud integration right now. Cloud integration is having something called Edge Integration Cell, which runs on-premise. So suppose you are running, you can think of it's there are customers where the strict integration requirements where like integration should run on-premise or like secured environment. They don't want to go into the cloud, right? Or in a private cloud scenario. So in that case, Edge Integration Cell really comes handy. That's where you design things on cloud, on the cloud integration portfolio, but then ultimately when you deploy it, it deploys into on-premise Kubernetes pod. So ultimately it goes through on-premise. So the entire runtime is on-premise. So that is one aspect of it. On the other hand, from the application development side, obviously you have Cloud Connector, which connects your on-premise world to the kind of hybrid kind of a scenario that you can do. Also, on the data side, we have data connectors, which basically connects to smart data connection to HANA, as well as nowadays in BDC, there are connectors which is connecting to on-premise also. There are ways to connect to the on-premise.
Gotcha. So another thing that we would like to know from, we have so many people asking so many questions, and I will let the authors actually answer some of them in the chat when they jump in, so that we can kind of get through all of we've got a lot going on. So Cloud ALM, it provides guidelines as part of Clean Core's success plan, and it provides detailed guidance on what are the recommended ways to build on SAP versus what should be built on BTP. Also, let's see, what about SAP white paper notes on this? Is there, Cloud ALM, the guidelines and so forth? I'm sure there are white papers and notes on this.
Yes. The Cloud ALM again is like they call it the digital backbone, and it's a whole topic in itself. Your traceability of your applications across your operations, pretty much all your operations runs through Cloud ALM. So I don't know how to answer that question briefly. Yes, there are white papers. There is a lot of help documentation available on Cloud ALM.
Yeah, I think I answered that question in the context of the question that what would be used, how people can segregate, like what do we build on SAP stack versus BTP stack. And my point of view was like, as part of the Clean Core Success Plan, you have detailed guidelines and Q gates through which, like during the implementation project, you can question customers, understand like what are the good candidate for moving into Clean Core way. And if it is in a Clean Core way, you're re-architecting the solution, what are the components you actually going to use? Someone is asking, like, for example, whether I use user exit, for example, right? So that guideline basically gives you detailed list of technologies which is permeable, which is in adherence to a Clean Core versus which is not. And we generally color code it first, like green, yellow, green, amber, and red. And based on that, we see how clean your core is.
Yeah. And I think, Shibaji, I think that's what you mentioned, the SAP application extension methodology, right?
That is another part of it. And everything goes on that line. And that's where we have series of notes and white papers as well, which talks about what are the I'd say compliant way to develop stuff and what are not.
When we talk about develop stuff, what about no code, pro code in BTP? And is that Python or ABAP?
If you go for a no code solution, originally SAP started with something called AppGyver, and then we adopted it into the build portfolio. That SAP build apps part, I'm not talking about build code, but build apps. That is ultimately not going to expose you to any code language, to be honest.
That is my next book, by the way, guys. Next month. Here we go. There you go. I'll tell you all about no code building process automation.
Yeah, so in the build portfolio itself, you'll see multiple stuff. So one is build apps, which is purely no code. And in the no code, low code, you have a little bit of way to do some JavaScript scripting, but ultimately it doesn't expose or it doesn't open the hood to see the underlying code. It's all drag and drop. Everything is encapsulated into a no code way to develop something. Okay. But technically speaking, ultimately it creates on React Native framework, but it doesn't open up the hood there. Second option is build code, which is basically pro code, but it gives you Joule assistance with that. There is like with very minimal experience with coding, just by prompting correctly, you can generate the code all together and create literally in minutes. You can develop an app. I have done so. So it's literally in few minutes you can build a productive app. That's build apps, build code. Sorry. And the book that you showed, that is Build Process Automation, that is the other portfolio, which is managing more on the workflow and automation part of it. And that's where it is also starting with low code, no code, because for most of the purpose, simple to mid complex workflows, you don't have to do any coding or anything. You can do all drag and drop stuff. And cool stuff also is like probably who are experienced in the workflow. One of the primary challenges are integrating the APIs from various systems, right? Always it has been a problem. But with build code, we have really drastically simplified that thing. You don't have to think of any code or security mechanism and blah, blah, blah. All these things are configuration. And you can pretty much ingest those APIs, test it, and incorporate that into the workflow. So it starts low code, no code, but there are ways to do in a really advanced case. You can go a little bit pro code on top of it, but yeah.
Because your book does have it is useful for developers. So just remember that, guys, that want to develop. One thing I was wondering, SAP buys some products. They didn't buy BTP. It was created by SAP, wasn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, so that's kind of neat, because then it was something that was actually built for everybody who runs SAP. And they thought about, like, outside of SAP, how do we get all those other applications connected to the core, like the mothership, that ECC, S4, whatever that ERP was, because I think that was one of the biggest problems back in the day, was that it was so unconnected to all those other applications.
And
yeah, and sorry.
Go ahead, Shivaji.
No, it's all right. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say another key point to what you said, Taylor, is being able to adapt to changing business needs and customer requirements quickly, being agile, right?
Yeah.
So if I have an on-prem system or an S4 system, if I change that system to adapt, I can't, because my core business runs here, right? So which means I need another means to adopt those innovations quickly, adapt to changing market needs. How can I do that? The answer is BTP.
Yeah.
So you're not changing your core, but you're extending on another platform independent of that. And that's kind of the answer to a question, which is, why should I extend? What would be a use case as to why extension must be built in SAP rather than in BTP? For example, if we have user exists implemented in sales order, deliveries, etc. And the answer to that completely depends on who are you building that extension for? Is it an external user, an internal user? Where is the data? Is it integral to S4 or is it outside S4? What kind of process is this? What is the overall big picture process, right? So is it tightly coupled, loosely coupled? So there is a whole white paper on making that decision. So it kind of depends. There is no straightforward answer. It depends on all the parameters that I just said.
I was thinking, with it moving, like being agile and being able to pivot at we have Joule now with AI. We have, now Joule runs on everything. And having, so where is the integration of BTP with the large language models and so forth and data lake and all this? I mean, it is changing dramatically.
It is changing drastically, and one important aspect of, as you mentioned just now, that BTP is something that we SAP built on like inherently. On top of it, whatever future foundation is going on, everything is built on BTP.
Yeah.
So be it business AI, and now let's segue to the discussion to the business AI, and we'll go to LLM. If you look at the entire business AI portfolio, we are ingesting business AI into all of our products, be it on any SaaS product or any on-premise product. We are providing a lot of business AI services, but the main crux of it, like be it nuanced Joule services, be it generative AI hub or generative AI services, as well as some of the business AI services in terms of nuanced use cases. For example, document extraction services or machine learning transformation or translation services. These kind of things are given on BTP. So BTP is the foundation platform, as Smitha mentioned. It's an open-ended platform. That's where it's easier for SAP also to innovate stuff on top of it. So whatever you are seeing, the new business AI stuff, everything is built on BTP in any shape or form, right? And coming on to the LLM question, yes, SAP has options to integrate LLMs. So what our principle in terms of getting AI infused in our software is, of course, 3 R's, as you probably know: reliable, responsible, and what is the third one?
Reliable, responsible,
relevant. Sorry, relevant. Yeah, I just blanked out. Sorry. So basically, what SAP provides on BTP is something called Generative AI Hub, which is for developers. SAP doesn't say that just go to OpenAI or just go to Gemini or something like that, but rather it gives you a host of different market-leading large language models or foundation models. Why is it so? Because we are seeing this space of generative AI is evolving very, very fast. Back like 1.5 years back, probably you've been always talking about OpenAI. Now we are talking about Gemini, Anthropic, Claude, and every day new things are coming, and each model is having their own strength, to be honest. So we have seen in business use cases, sometimes you may think that this is the right model in this juncture of the time. Maybe down the line 2 years, you will see that, no, this is not the right model. I have to upgrade that model. But the overall business portfolio is fine, but I have a better model to replace that LLM part of it. So that flexibility SAP Business AI, particularly GenAI Hub, provides you. With a single contract, you are going to hook up into multiple LLMs, and based on your need, you can flexibly use that and get the cost on top of it flexibly. So.
And like you were saying, it's a product that was developed by SAP, and it's been over the years just kind of morphing and changing. And so what is the role of an SAP BTP solution architect? So I think you can kind of come at this from lots of different angles on what kind of background that person is and where do they play and who can touch it and who doesn't. And don't you think? I mean, there's different roles within it.
I can take a stab a little bit on the application development side, and then probably give it to someone. Sorry.
Shibaji, address it from the BTP solution architect, right? Like without going into the
verticals.
Users. Yeah.
So from overall, okay, even before solution architect, I'll go one level above as an enterprise architect. Okay, so if you're overall looking at your enterprise need and how the business transformation going on, right? at one point of time, you'll probably understand like what are the business need, and based on that, what is the development you need, what is the gap, right? After that, in traditional world, when we only had on-premise ECC world, right, we used to jump onto a ISFW list and start coding, right? Not anymore. Before that, you need to judge what are the different areas how I can develop. So it could be within the core, or it could be an extension of the core. So that judgment is something that the BTP solution architect is an integral part of, right? His judgment is necessary there. That's number one. Number two, I am integrating that core with some other stuff, other SaaS product, other non-SAP product, third party, whatnot, right? So how my integration portfolio would look like, what are the connector I would use, what are the protocol I would use, what are the storage management I should use, how the network should look like, what is the centricity of the network. That is another portfolio, which is the BTP solution architect has to give valuable input on that, right? Now, coming on to the data architecture, how that's a huge topic, and that's where also like you need to understand what is the data gravity of your entire landscape. Are you a SAP centric company, or are you having a non-SAP centric company where SAP is just a portfolio as in the side? Based on that, where is your data integration going on? And even for organizations who are envisioning ambitious projects on AI, having multiple data pipeline and all this, that way also you need to think of what is the data cleansingness, or what is the data accuracy that I'm prompting, or I'm pumping into my data pipeline, so that I get good results out of AI, right? So AI and data portfolio management, and overall looking at what are the things that I should do. Why BTP solution architect is gaining more and more traction, and it's very important role, because BTP, I've been talking about all the enterprise needs, right? And
Right.
all the enterprise needs, be it application, integration, extension, data, AI, all are touching one platform
Yes.
as a service, which is BTP. And
So let
BTP
me ask you
has,
this. If
yeah.
I was ECC, if I talked like my terminology is ECC world, and we've got like an ABAPer, we have a basis guy, we have, that's technical side, then we have the functional side, then we have the business. Who would come in and play that role of BTP?
Good question. Yeah, Smitha.
So before I answer that question, the message I want to give everyone on the call, and they can take this message back to their business, is everyone engaged on a project should understand the capabilities of BTP. What is BTP? What can BTP do for my business? I think that everybody needs to understand. And what I've always said is, do not approach BTP from a technical standpoint. It is a business technology platform. It is a platform, it's a technical platform for business.
Yeah.
Right? But you cannot look at BTP purely from a technical aspect, simply because if there is no business need, there is no need for a business technology platform. Right? So the business also needs to understand how they can run their business better, extend their business to consume those innovations using BTP. They need to understand how to do that, or not how to do it, but more like what are the capabilities, right? And then the IT can come in and figure out how to do it.
Right.
Right? So to answer your question, who plays that role is not straightforward.
Sure.
Right? It has to be a combination of both business and IT figuring out how they're going to leverage the platform.
It's almost like an enterprise architect, kind of like a BTP enterprise architect, not really like a solution.
Thinking of from the business aspect is very, very important. So as you mentioned, Kendall, like for example, in my previous world, I used to think of like ABAPers and basis person and a functional guy. for example,
Right.
right?
Yeah. That's those are
And
yeah.
typically, I've seen this kind of question, like in my RiseFW list, I used to do this development like this. I need a custom table. I need a custom report or a user exit to feed that into feed that table and create a custom DINFO program to create a screen. How I can do that in BTP? Now, before you think on a technical side, if you start thinking from the technical angle, you'll probably see that, okay, I have a database. Now I try to do something on the database. Now this is a web intro screen. What is the screen I should do on that side? But hold on, before you go into that, just think a step back and think that why exactly you would develop this thing. What is the business need for that? You may think that, okay, this development which was developed, which is not in right shape and form right now in the to-be world. It has to be enhanced. That is one part of it. Second is, even if it's there, probably BTP is already providing an out-of-the-box solution. For example, now for the designing the screen, I would probably I do not need any coding. I would probably go and build it as a low-code, no-code way.
Yeah.
Or I sense that, be it in the present world, probably it's just a screen, but in a to-be world, it would be better to have infused a process in underneath of the screen. So in that case, I'll probably go to build process automation to build the screen as well as the process flow to integrate with the API.
So what
Right?
I would recommend
Yeah.
to kind of summarize what Shibaji is saying, go look at application development methodology that SAP is providing that kind of tells you the approach to take to build extensions. And then there is another parallel methodology for integration and data as well. So I highly recommend that you look at those methodologies to start looking at how you're building your extensions, integrations, and data differently.
Now, if you're using an S4 product and you're integrating, you don't have to do all that, do you? I mean, you don't have to do a lot to connect the two products together.
It's
already done, isn't it?
All
Kinda?
consulting answers, it depends. SAP, like I was saying earlier, right, is providing lot of out of the box integrations. So if you're using out of the box integrations, yes, you don't need to do much. But if you are building an integration, then you want to look at it. But also, before you go into the build level, if you look at it one step higher, when you're looking at what systems are available in my landscape, how are my processes and data touching these systems, and what am I getting out of these, right? Take yourself out of that developer mindset to more a solution architect. That is where these methodologies come into picture. Because you don't want to box yourself down to a particular technology, but look at it from a solution aspect and then think of how you're going to implement it using technology.
That's true.
Book also, you'll probably see that we have actually given a lot of use cases, and in those use cases, we try to give an approach, like in a particular business solution or business scenario, how you would approach a solution. Like what is the thought process on that? A lot of time we just don't give the solution of it, but rather peeling the onion in terms of like what is the thought process behind it to approach a solution. And we were trying to give a kind of methodology on that, like discovering the service, connecting to it, build it, and then ultimately operate on top of it.
And also data. If you think about it, you've got some crazy little application out there and you're like, oh, I should connect it in. What if the data has nothing to do with anything? I mean, you have to actually think about this stuff. Like, why? Why should you do it? Is there a benefit to it? What is the value of it? Instead of like, oh, yeah, let's just connect it all in.
Yeah, and things that we must avoid is a lot of business will say this, that this is how we used to do things. This is how we used to do, right? This is the mindset that we have to, how to say, to change this mindset in this cloud transformation way. Yeah.
There's a lot of big boats out there called ECC customers, multiple landscapes, different versions, and they're all kind of like, what do I do? How do I get to the next step? You know, and I think BTP, it kind of is like a first step for them to kind of see what's out there. I mean, would you say that that would be their first like jump into more of a cloud situation versus they're so on-prem used to kind of thing?
And one point we briefly touched actually, BTP also comes out with a lot of standard out-of-the-box content, be it integration content or workflow content or APIs, CDS view, you name it. Like there are a lot of things which is given out there. So before you actually, while architecting a solution, when you really understand that there is a need of development, please have a look at the BTP portfolio. I have given a couple of links also in the chat. Please look at the Business Accelerator Hub and BTP Discovery Center to understand what BTP has to offer. Is there anything out there already available? Let's not reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I mean, you know, a lot of customers are like, oh, I've got so much custom code and all this. And, you know, after a while, you're like, you really don't need that custom code. One, you're not even using it. Two, it's already in S4. And it's kind of the same idea with BTP. You know, look, don't try to redevelop what's already there. So do some homework, you know, look at everything, look at all that, you know, information. There's so much information out there on BTP. Let's talk about like the biggest thing that most people love to know is, what's next? What are you guys hearing that everybody's working on? What's the, you know, what's the future thing that we should be looking forward to with SAP BTP? Hints?
You want to go next?
I don't know. I'm thinking just AI.
Yeah, business AI is going big, as well as BDC. These two are going to grow a lot in next big thing, I'd say.
All the AI use cases, AI agent will be double, triple in the coming quarters.
What do you think is going to grow faster, the business data cloud or the whole AI side? Who's going to outcompete each other? AI?
It's quite complementary to each other, actually, to be honest. At one end, obviously, business AI is spreading its tentacles in all of our portfolio. BDC is one stack of it, but it is a very, very important stack of it. Because if you are actually building something for you, nowadays, generative AI gives you opportunity to contextually get your answer through LLM based on your data. And there are certain, we have briefly touched in the book also. There's architecture pattern called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And based on that, you can have your data to feed into LLM and get your contextual answer. And that is very, very powerful. And that's basically creates a real crux of it to mold the entire business, like LLM, into your business context. So that's one part of it. Then on top of it, we are putting the agentic AI part of it. That is also on BTP. What else? Even the new models, which is coming out, which is having reasoning, and that is also based on what kind of data you are feeding in and what kind of model you are using. And that's where, again, Business AI Hub, or rather Generative AI Hub, is very much powerful. Because, for example, I was building something a few months back. I was using GPT 3.2. It is not a reasoning model. It was giving considerable amount of good answer, but I was not getting a rationale behind its answer, right? Now with GPT 4.0, I can actually have a rationale behind it, why it is giving answer. So that is very important in terms of establishing a trust on what AI is providing to you, whether it is hallucinating or it is giving a legitimate answer, that's what is very important. So SAP is tying the knot in all ends, and BTP is integral part of it.
I know. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Totally
and then
excited
going back to
about
the
the future.
BDC context of it, like BDC is also firepowering the actual data part of it, be it like data cleansing, data governance, data pipeline, data ingestion. Everything is going through BTP, as well as it is providing an ecosystem where existing data scientists who are very much familiar with Databricks and those kind of environment, they can onboard pretty quickly on top of it. So we are really accelerating that entire
That's
ecosystem.
exciting. I'm wondering what, like, all the weird new things, like what if it's like facial recognition, kind of like BTP? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you guys would be like, oh my gosh, how are we going to connect that? Or some strange. You can do that
even today. Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to build
Today
an
you can do that.
application that recognizes your face and then logs you into SAP. You can do that today.
Yeah.
It's not future, it's today.
I know. That's pretty cool. So anyway, again, thank you guys so much for coming to the SAP Press Book Club. And by the way, everybody, you can get the book 20% off until Wednesday. However, if you change your mind to buy it on Thursday or Friday, or use Book Club 15, so that's our coupon code, and you can get 15% off of the book. So again, don't forget, here it is, SAP BTP. Thank you guys so much for having me, and I look forward to getting you guys in the top 10 list, maybe up to number 1. So we'll try to work on that again. Thank you again, and thank everybody for coming to the SAP Press Book Club. Thanks. We'll see you next month. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.